Yes.
What do you need, John?
What? Water? I have. Yep, I got you.
Okay. Notice of this meeting in accordance with the Open Public Meetings Law 1975, C 231 has been posted. Two newspapers, The Record and the Ridgewood News, have been notified. Roll call, please.
Councilman Bonanno,
Here.
Councilwoman Brodsky.
Here.
Councilwoman Margolis is on her way shortly. Councilwoman Marsh. Here. Councilman Pollak.
Here.
Council President Stern.
Present.
Mayor Rendo.
Here. Pledge of allegiance.
Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America, and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Approval of minutes, April 23rd, 2025, closed session. Is there a motion?
Motion.
Second.
All in favor?
Yes.
Any opposed? None. Motion passes. April 23rd, 2025, open session. Is there a motion?
Motion.
Second.
All in favor?
Yes.
Any opposed? None. Motion passes. May 5th, 2025, open session. Is there a motion?
Motion.
Second. All in favor?
Yes.
Any opposed? None. Motion passes. Budget hearing, ordinance number 25-05, year 2025, an ordinance to exceed the municipal budget appropriations limit and to establish a cap bank pursuant to NJSA colon 440 colon 4-45.14. All right, motion to open to the public.
Motion. Second.
All in favor?
Yes.
Any opposed? None. Okay, anybody would like to come up and speak on this? The cap?
Just on that.
Just on this ordinance, not on the budget. Yeah, you can come up.
3 minutes, Mr. Taylor, I'm taking time to.
Yeah, I know, you got 78 pages and you got.
I'm under orders, sir. I'm under orders, I'm a soldier.
Yeah, I know you are. But sometimes the orders are more. That's the way things go, right? Would we possibly have a budget presentation before we have the questions?
This is just,
This is just for the cap. For
Ordinance
the
only.
cap ordinance, that's why I said it's just for this ordinance.
Cap.
Yeah, the cap ordinance that we do every year,
Okay,
that's why.
it's not for the.
Not yet.
Budget, they will be after the budget presentation.
Right after the budget presentation.
Terrific, thank
All
you.
right, thank you for staying on the trip.
This is on.
no, just this one is.
Cap.
Yep.
Motion to close.
Second, motion.
Second.
All in favor?
Yes.
Any opposed? None. Motion passes. Motion to adopt?
No, it's for this, the waiver and reading of full.
Oh, okay, yeah.
No, but we have to adopt that ordinance.
Oh, I thought we were just doing an all, yes, correct,
Yeah.
sorry.
Motion to adopt.
Motion.
Second.
Roll call, please.
Mr. Banana, here. Yes or no?
Oh, yes.
Okay, Ms. Brodsky,
Yes.
Ms. Marsh,
Yes.
Pollock,
Yes.
Mr. Stern.
Yes.
Motion passes, Mayor.
Thank you. Resolution number 25-147, resolution authorizing the waiver of reading in the full 2025 budget. Is there-
These two you can do.
Okay, resolution number 25-148, self-examination of the 2025 budget.
Motion. Second.
Okay, all in favor?
Yes.
Any opposed? None. Budget presentation, Paul Rich, step right up.
Hello, everyone.
Hello.
Hi, Paul.
And.
And Mr. Joseph. The dream team.
That's an alternate. So. If it's okay with you, what I was gonna do. I was just gonna briefly talk a little bit about globally, the. Financial highlights
of the municipality, and talk a little bit about what happened in 24. Globally, where are we in 25? We can go through the slide presentation, and we'll go through it kind of briefly. Really hasn't changed much from over the previous years, and you'll see, and then of course, if anybody has any questions, we'll go through that. So just a little bit of a highlight of nothing of was all. It's on. Should be okay. Okay, something's up.
Just wanna make sure if anybody's watching.
Right, they can make sure. So, let's talk about 2024 fiscal highlights. So 2024 was a very successful year for the Borough of Woodland Lake. Surplus was up 200,000 from the previous year before. I'm not sure if it's an all-time high, but it's over the last 7 years that I had, at least it's added here, and we can go back 20 years, but so that is a positive, what we're looking for annually. So surplus went from 4 million, ended the fiscal year to $4.2 million. And really what that does, that just gives you the ability to use that surplus to balance the budgets going forward. As of course, the prices increase, inflation goes up, costs are going up on an annual basis. So that was positive news. So that provides us a little bit of leeway on surplus revenues. Collection rate, tax collection rate, it's been steady here for as long as I've been around, since you've ran 99, 98%, which is terrific, really where you want to be. It's certainly not unusual for this type of community, but again, very consistent. So that means most of our tax bills are being paid on a timely basis. Tax appeals are always a big thing in Woodcliff Lake, as we all know, dealing with those specific issues. We did go in previous years and asked for a refunding ordinance on the appeals. The balance sheet itself has reserve balances. We have reserve balances for a number of items, and one of the items is for tax appeals. So at the end of 2024, we actually have $500,000 sitting in our bank account for future tax appeals. And then in addition to that, we have $190,000 that we budgeted in a 25 budget, assuming it's going to pass tonight. And then we also have some reserve unspent monies from the 24 budget of roughly $180,000. So we have over $862,000 rolling forward in our reserve for appeals, and that's prior to any payments that we're making in 25 and forward. So that's positive. I know that back in the day when we were going through this process and getting approval from LFB on the appeals, we were uncertain as to where our balances were going to be and how much we actually needed. And whether or not we were going to have a surplus going forward and be able to build that surplus. So we're going in the right direction. I guess that's what I'm trying to say, is that although I know we were dealing with some legal appeals, that I know that at least from a cash perspective, financial statements, we actually do have some reserves going forward. And really the idea here is hopefully we can sustain any future appeals without having to entertain the local finance board application asking permission to fund that over multiple years. So I know I said a lot there, but I guess at the end of the day, I'm happy with where we are in reserve for appeals. We also have over $420,000 set aside for terminal leave payments. That's as employees leave, they're entitled to terminal pay. So this way it relieves some pressure on the budget side as well, because we actually have money set aside for those payments. And finally, we have a storm trust reserve, which is intended to pay for unanticipated storms throughout the year that we're not budgeting. So again, we have budget appropriations that we normally handle these expenses on an annual basis. But again, if we do have circumstances that warrant, then we certainly can dip into the reserve balance. So financially, I think, Woodcliff Lake is in excellent condition here. I mean, I think these are great numbers to have. And let's just talk a little bit about 2025. So, we can start to go through some of the slides here. So if you go through some of the slides, obviously the first one that we're looking at here is just a breakdown of the revenues. I think the big important things when I look at this is that obviously you can see the surplus. So the utilization surplus is up $150,000. And that's only possible because the actual balance itself, the previous year increase. And that's what's given us the ability to utilize more surplus to balance the budget. Local revenues, and I'm sure if I pull last year's, I do have it here, a lot of these percentages are unchanged. It includes all these other items that are listed in the bottom, which is basically anything that we don't see specifically identified. Licenses, fees, permits. I think the only thing, and it's not a material change, is obviously the hotel tax is no longer an anticipated revenue in 25, it was an anticipated revenue in 24, but pretty stable, and I think that's again, that's right where you want to be, no real surprise, there's no real fluctuations on the budgeting side. State aid is slightly down, everybody saw that because in the previous year, the state came back and found additional monies, and for those towns that didn't adopt the budgets, we had to reserve it. And so it became a budgeted revenue in 24, and therefore they would reappropriate that in 25. That's why you see that's a decrease. Delinquent taxes, you know, it's up, they're up slightly just because the levy keeps increasing, right? But $230,000, we're able to anticipate more because the delinquent balance went up a little bit more, so we're able to anticipate that as a revenue. Just means we go through a 2-year cycle on tax collections, right? We send everybody a bill, we've got to pay the county, we've got to pay the school 100% of their taxes, and then we have to have enough money set aside for us to pay our bills. And then we go through the 2nd-year cycle, and that's where we anticipate that revenue of those delinquencies. So I feel very comfortable with that as well. And then you're looking at the grants here, and really the big distinction this year is that we lost some of the grant monies, and really it was the remaining piece of the ARPA money. That ARPA money had to be committed or spent by the end of 2024. That's why we're looking at what we're seeing here. And then you're left with the tax levy, which is again, final denominator, right? What are we raising in taxes? So that's it, that increase is $400,000 roughly 3%, 3.2% on the total tax dollars being raised, and the total budget's up 4%. And this is just a breakdown of the dollars. I mean, in this again, I did look at last year, as a matter of fact, and I think almost every percentage or allocation of tax dollars is similar to last year. I'm sure if we look at 23s and 22s, it's just indicative of what happens in this in your type of community. The majority is coming from municipal taxes. Okay. Tax levy cap. So tax levy cap. This is the cap on the tax levy itself. How much money can you raise? We all know that the state of New Jersey implemented caps, and the idea was to try to lower the taxes in the state and control the increases. You know, even though you're looking at a 3.2% increase in taxes, you know, half is sitting here at the 2%, but there's exceptions to every rule, as everyone knows. And really what this slide is telling everybody that, okay, so in 2025, the governing body's presenting the tax increase or the amount to be raised by taxes of the $12,882,000. But the state's telling you, well, you could raise it another $600,000. So we're raising it 400, but they're telling you if you wanted to, you could raise it $1 million this year and still be within the cap. So that's just telling you that there's banks available for future use. Certainly, I can't imagine anybody intends on using those banks, right? That is keep taxes as low as possible. So then we get to the expense side, and the expense side. I think, you know, again, similar to the previous years here. You know, when we try to compare what the budget was in 24 to 25. I think what kind of stands out for me is that the salaries and wages are only up 1.2%. And that's really holding the line. And I think that, you know, what the public has to understand is that, you know, even if the contract is, you know, we always seem to pick on PBA, right? But
Always picking on the cops.
could be DPW as well. So we could pick on either one, but say you go through those contracts, and if the governing body awards a 2% increase on that contract, it really always equates to about 4%. They gave it 3%, it's somewhere around 5-6%, because you have the increases in the steps, and those steps have larger dollar values. So to keep this at 1.2% is tremendous.
And just to explain on that, I think most of the governing body knows, I know definitely the finance committee, but for those of a large reason with that is we are having a transition both within the police department and the DPW where some senior folks have or are retiring and are being replaced by younger members. So, you know, that adds, or that's one of the reasons why we're able to keep it now. Obviously, that's always gonna go up later on, but for now and maybe the next year, it's good for us.
Although, Tom, I would note, we did see an increase for police officers' salaries of 145,000. So that,
Oh, yeah.
so that really does drive, we really did have to make that up with other employees so that the cops still went up. So it's not as if that 1% represents the cops, because it's the other salaries that really drove that down.
No.
And that's contractual, so we had no control over the cop salary anyway. So
And I think you stated at the bottom there, Mr. Lurk, not to take it from your presentation, but the other expenditures, I just think that it's very worth noting that a large portion of that, and my CFO knows, is the health benefits, which is a concern not just for us, but for every town, every school board and everything. Every government agency right now that's taking a big toll on all the municipalities.
Yeah, by far, that's one of the major increases that we're seeing, town by town by town. The health insurance, and of course, there was articles in the record, I'm sure everyone was aware of those with the state health benefit plan. I don't know where that's going, probably not a good spot. Yeah, and if you look at, the other expenses, so again, what we're looking at, we kind of lump in salaries, and then we go through some of the specifics, and then everything else gets lumped into other. So that's a large 264, but really 170,000 of it is benefits, is insurance. And then we have small increases that deals the utilities pension. That's the bulk of what makes up that $280,000 increase. Other than that, the pensions, those are pretty well flat. We did decrease the capital improvement or capital projects component. And I think that was a direct reflection of when you look at what we have on the bottom towards, we see debt service. Debt service, and that went up sizable this year. And so I think it was a conscious effort at that point, then, well, we need to back off on the capital improvement, the capital side, try to balance those a little bit. So at the end of the day, net reserve fund collected, as I said before, that's always going up. We increase that every year because your total levy goes. Because, we're levying the tax, it's not just for us, but for the local school, regional school, and the county. That's just one of those items that this requires to go up on an annual basis. So again, when you look at the grand total here, expenditures were up basically 4% from the previous year. And then when you get into the appropriations as a percentage of the total, again, for last year, which I've been at 4 years before, these are almost identical, again, percentages where the tax dollars going. Salaries and wages is obviously big, but the other expense would be insurance stuff. It's starting to creep in, and take a little bit of a larger slice of the pie. I'm gonna go forward. So when I go forward on it, so this is one of the other caps. So the state, way back when, started with this spending cap, the appropriation cap, and they thought that was a good way to limit tax increases to municipalities and to the residents. But at the end of the day, really, in my mind, the important cap is really the tax levy cap, right? But what you spend is really not that relevant. It's really how much you tax is really more relevant. But this is one of the caps that we have to live with. And I would be quite frank with you that even though you are below the maximum amount of 268 in a lot of my communities that I represent, we're coming up against those numbers, and some of them are having to cut to get underneath those caps. Even though the tax levy cap still has an available balance. So it's one of these things that I think the legislature is going to try to deal with next year, try to exclude some more stuff out of here. Again, in my mind, it's really not an important issue. One thing I do want to point out is that when we look at on the spending side, up top, you can see that it increased 1.8%. So that means the limitation amount, how much did we spend, what was inside the cap subject to limitations. which is good. So really, we only increased inside the cap of 1.8%. Which is really nice. And the year before was a little bit higher, but so that's a good number, and that's really what's allowing us to increase the available balance to 268. If you look at last year, it wasn't much of a balance now. And then we get into the history of the tax rate apportionment. You know, it gets a little odd here, not odd, I shouldn't say, but it's a little bit different in the sense that when you're looking at tax rates, because we do a rolling assessment, our assessed values are always being adjusted on an annual basis. So we had an increase in assessed values, which could actually lower the rate, not indicative of what the tax dollars are. So really, again, what we're saying is here is that the municipal, including the open space, which is 1 penny, is going up 0.5 point. But and then we did an estimate on the county and then the local school. But I think what's more important is coming up in the next 2 slides. Again, because that's adjusted for increases in assessed values. So this slide, again, this is like, where did your tax dollar go? And then what every dollar, where does the money go? That we pay for as a resident, right? So we know that for every dollar that we pay, 11 cents is really for the county, 25 cents is only for the municipality, and that's what we're here to talk about, right? So we're not here to talk about the remaining 75 cents, and that's the bulk of it. And really, it's always from the school. And that's, again, typical of the state of New Jersey. I think last year's percentage or penny right down at 25. But this is typical of municipalities in your demographics. And then really, what does it mean? So when we get back here, we're kind of like to the last component, and that's of course what's important to you, the residents, and that's really how does it affect the average resident, average home value? What are we doing on taxes? What's the increase here? So what we're projecting is that we're looking at a $235 increase from 2024 to 2025. And the home values that we usually went from a $908,000 average now to a $944,000 average. So I guess at this point, I would open it up to any questions, and then we need to get into any other details or we'll we can do that.
Okay, any questions from the council, Mr. Lurch? No?
I mean, maybe Paul, maybe you can just explain that 235, a large percentage of that is based on, some of the changes in the commercial assessments, not necessarily based on the tax levy.
Yeah, and that's the interesting thing. So it's a good point. So because we do these rolling assessments, which means that basically 20% of the community every single year goes under a reassessment or reval or adjustment. So what's happening is that over the last 4 or 5 years, what's happened is that even though the assessed values in the borough have gone up, the percentage allocated to the residential side is going up at a greater percent than the commercial properties. So that's what we call a shift. So what happens is that even if we were to raise 0 tax dollars, we kept our budget in 2025 identical to what we're raising what we raised in 2024. Because of the shift alone, on the municipal side, you got an $80 increase. And if you extrapolate that out, it's over a $300 increase just on an estimate when you add the county and the 2 schools into it. So, and I think we should just focus on our side of it. So on our side of it, like I said, and you're talking about, it's a 5% increase because of the shift, and $80 of that 232 is part of that shift. Last year was $110 was the shift. So those were one of the biggest hurdles that Wycliffe Lake is trying to get your hand around, and I think we want to write it out. I mean, I know this has been a battle over the last few years, and I've been involved with finance and going through that process, and I think we're coming to a resolution here as to moving forward that we think we're going to be able to hold on with these shifts. So.
Mr. Joseph, want to add anything?
No, Mayor, thank you very much again. You gave a very good Well, gave a very detailed overview, as we know, and appreciate all the support from the council and the mayor and all the staff. It's a pleasure working with everyone here.
Yeah, also
Thank
like to
you.
thank Council President Stern and Councilman Pollock on the finance committee. going over the budget.
Councilman Banana. And Councilman Banano.
Banana.
You know, just before we open to questions, I
didn't recognize these are Yankee fans. So I thought-
We can go.
No, I guess before we open to questions, I do want to say, you know, we, as a finance committee, we did go through this budget line by line, you know, over many hours. You know, we really did try to cut whatever waste we could in a reasonable way. You know, no one took out a chainsaw and pretended they were somebody else, but we really did try to do it in a, you know, in a very reasonable way. You know, we did keep the tax levy to 3.2%. I did just want to point out, you know, there were probably 5 specific line items that really drove, you know, whatever increase we had. You know, we had about a $300,000 increase in debt service, $168,000 in insurance, liability, workers' comp, $145,000 in police salaries, $30,000 in utilities, and $45,000 in pension. That's about $700,000. So if you look at the levy, which is only an increase of $400,000, we were able to find, you know, sufficient cuts in order to sort of offset most of that and really keep it in a reasonable way for our taxpayers.
Yeah, and I guess just to add to your point, when we had one of our meetings and we started out with a document that was almost $700,000 in increase in taxes. And then that's when the line by line approach and I know that the committee went through that and that's how, you know, through their hard work, we were able to take it from that 700 down to the 4.
I think also for the public to note, when you look back, at least the data that I had readily available was the last, I believe, 6 years. This is the smallest year-on-year increase on the municipal side, at least over that period.
And that's also with flat state aid since the Christie administration. So basically municipalities are not getting anything from the state. Doesn't matter who's in power. And then, so we have to make up that money somehow.
I also want to add that one of the questions I had concerns with you talked about was that you're leaving enough in reserves and to make sure should there be any emergencies or anything that need to go, we're planning appropriately.
So tax appeals that may be coming down the pike, everything.
The unknown.
The unknowns, yeah.
And as we know, with the weather shifting and flooding shifting, it's really gonna, we don't know what the future will bring.
But also, I do want to point out too, we had several favorable tax appeal settlements this year. Some of them were, one of them, we certainly had estimates from our appraisers that it was a multi-million-dollar exposure. We were able to settle that just by having a modest reduction in assessment. So we really have tried to tackle that issue, and it's just been unfortunate the last couple of years. It has affected the commercial assessments. But we've sort of reinstituted trying to have bi-monthly meetings, with our assessor to try to go through this because it's been a thorn in our side the last couple of years.
Yeah.
But and even just add to that, I mean, you look at the last 5 years, the total assessed value of the borough went up $365 million. It's a tremendous amount. But the problem is when it shifts to the resident side and not from the commercial side, and that's when we feel these tax increases without really spending any more money.
And it's not that the commercials are not going up.
Yes.
It's that the commercials are not going up as much. So.
Lower.
I think what's also important to note, when you look at the budget in totality, despite the fact that we're going line by line throughout the budget and trying to find savings or things that perhaps in years past that had not been spent to its fullest, we're able to save some dollars, but in doing so, none of the borough services that we provide today are changing or going away as a result of shaving where we can. So we still provide the same level of service to our residents while still finding some savings in doing so.
Okay, at this moment, I guess we'll make a motion to open it to the public on the budget presentation.
Motion.
Is there a second? All in favor?
Thank you.
Yeah.
None opposed? Hi, anybody who'd like to speak on?
Stay on the cases.
Whatever.
Yeah.
Turn out pretty good. They're not done.
All right, whoever, come on up here. And we can have a seat right here. Okay.
I like how John got to leave.
Guess my first comment is, I'm glad we're not the federal government trying to slash $7.4 trillion out of some needed programs, I think. But generally, to get here,
Just state your name and the time you.
Bert Taylor, Woodcliff Lake.
Oh.
I think you've done an excellent job on the budget. I didn't have much time to look at it, but I think it was done all in good taste. You looked at it. I look at this, I find out that the average price of the home has gone up 4%. The average price of our taxes gone up 4%. That's just part of where things are. You're in the midst of all of these things that happen within the statewide with insurance and liabilities, and that was a good part of it, and I understand that. I think also the fact that you've got the non-public, if you will, the business side of that. We know the loss of companies here. I hope there's a committee that is formed to see what we can do. I see that our neighbor city, I'll call it, Montville, has decided that they are going to try and become a city and attract a certain type of clientele there. I think it would be a perfect one for us too, but they've decided that they're going to try and attract medical and doctors and healthcare and etc. Perfect thing for them. I personally am a patient over at Sloan Kettering over there, unfortunately, but they're also trying to attract more medical in there. Low traffic, not a lot of people coming in, etc., and high vacancies and etc. So I don't know if we can do something of that nature. I don't know what we're going to be doing forward. I know at one point, I think there was a mayor's 2020 committee. I would suggest you might want to look ahead at a 2025 committee to see what we want to do in the next 5 years. We have the planning board, absolutely, but I think it sometimes comes from this mayor and council that says, what do we want to do with this borough? And I think we've got a lot of qualified people up here to take a look at that and see what we should be doing in the future. You're all residents here. This is your town. So what would you look at in the future for this? That would be helpful for us to keep both the cost of taxes down, but also to make this a quality place. And I just have a couple of comments, if I might. I'm trying to take a look at everything overall. The reserves, every town has to have them. You never know what the future has for you, such as like when we had COVID and everything just changed overnight. And we have somebody in charge of our health who doesn't believe in COVID. So we'll see what happens with all of that. The other expenses went up $500,000. My wife did a little look at this. I take it that's mostly due to what you had to do for insurance and healthcare. That's,
I mean, like I read you 5 line items. That was 700,000 right there.
okay. So it was less than the total of amount that went up. So again, I say a good job was done by all on this. I would say there's one part of it. It's not you. We do have representatives to our high school.
Mhm. Yes.
Do they at all confer with the mayor and council as to what the desires are of the mayor and council?
Nothing
No,
formally, no.
No, nothing.
So that they're just totally, okay. I bring up something unfortunate that I found out, that when it comes to all the high schools in the state of New Jersey, we're number 2 in terms of pay. Average salary of $117,500. I don't know how many of you are making 117,500, but it's a very nice salary. The only thing is that we are ranked by US News and World Report as number 68 in the state. When I look at our salaries at number 2 and I look at our ratings of the schools at 68, there's a disparity there between that. I would expect that we would be in the top 10, but we're down at 68 by US News and World Report. Not your, I mean, I know it's not your area.
But I wish more people like you would attend those board.
I totally agree with you.
Yeah.
I totally, there's this disparity and it gets worse every year.
Mhm.
You're aware of it. So that's basically what I had. I think I tried to make some notes here and that's about it. I think, well done. I look forward to a good year for the mayor and council and for the borough. So thank you.
Well, thank you.
I just want to reiterate what,
Please state your name and the town.
I'm sorry, yeah, Josephine Higgins, Wickliffe Lake. I'm glad to be a resident of this town. I've looked at some of the other towns and what their tax levy is, and people are being hit really hard. I just want to ask, Paul, how much do we have left? If we have an emergency like we had, with COVID.
As far as surplus, we are, let's get to the page.
How much in,
We have a sizable amount there. You'll see.
What was it?
what was it?
How much?
The reserve.
I thought we were about like 1.7.
No, I want the actual amount of money we have.
7. It's about 1.7. Oh, wait, I think John had.
1.6 something.
But that doesn't include the reserves.
Yeah, almost 1.9 million yet.
Jonathan, you already have.
We have that in reserve.
Yes, Mayor. So
Okay.
in that 1.9 million is actually, it's the highest over the last 10 years.
Yeah.
It's like the surplus number at 4.2 million is the highest over the last.
But Paul, that number doesn't include the money set aside for employees, their terminal, right?
Oh, no.
So that's another reserve.
That's another reserve.
And it doesn't include the money set aside for the tax appeals.
Right, as
Correct.
indicated,
Or
which
just
is just on balance. Yeah, that's all.
Thank you.
Also, Paul, maybe you want to elaborate a little bit that by having a healthy surplus, that also helps our bond ratings.
Right,
Does, yeah.
Yeah.
I know you know that.
Yeah.
More for the public.
thank you.
Sorry.
Mayor, just one more thing, also just to clarify, that 1.8 million, our balance includes what we utilize in the budget as well.
What, I'm sorry, what is it?
That includes the balance of what we used in this year's budget as well.
Okay. That's left over, that's what.
Yeah, that-
Okay.
So numbers 1.8, that's the answer.
Yes.
That's-
Rolling forward. The balance of the surplus rolling forward after we utilize the amount to balance the 25, that's the remaining balance surplus.
So you're saying 1.9?
1.9. Yeah, 1.9.
Okay.
Better just round, yeah.
Okay, the other thing, I love our our police department, they're great. One area that I think we could have saved some money is that we have 3 police, or to be police officers that are going to the academy, but we're paying for their schools and the academy and money that they receive. And I think that in the past, we've had good luck getting police officers that are already trained. They come from another town. And I just think we could have saved more money.
I'll answer that, Mayor.
Sure, go ahead.
Because I'm a big proponent of alternate route.
Yeah.
I spoke to the chief. We had an extensive evaluation. We received over 130 applicants.
Right.
Believe it or not a lot of alternate route or officers changing departments.
Mhm.
After extensive interviews through the process, what we've always done, both going back to Chief Janicelli, Chief Burns, now Chief Reisler, is we want to get the best candidates, be it an alternate route or someone we have to send to the academy. I don't disagree with you, it would be great, but we did have one who was an alternate route who decided to go to another department because they called him like, a couple of weeks prior. So, it wasn't for lack of trying or looking, it was just that we want to make sure that the folks we get are staying here. As you know, over the last 30 or 35 years, with the exception of 2 officers, everyone who's come here has stayed.
What?
With the exception of, I think, 2 officers,
Yeah.
everyone we've hired has stayed here. We've only lost 2 officers who have gone to another department.
Right,
One went to the prosecutor's office, who did very well, later became chief, and one left a couple of years ago, to a larger department. Otherwise, they usually come here and they get invested in the community and stay here. So that's the goal, is to find someone who really fits in with the department. I gotta give credit to the command staff there, who've done a really good job of making sure that that's done.
I just think that's a,
No,
Area we can
it's
save
always-
money.
Always something they look at, we look at,
right,
but at the end of the day, it's what is best for the borough, what is best for the police department.
And the timing of such was to get them into the academy for on or around July 1st.
Yeah.
Based on the retirements that we have to make sure that we don't have a staff shortage.
yeah, I know that the retirements are coming in, so, and, very good job. Who's on? Jo-
Yeah, I'm on the police committee, so
And-
Ben, so
Okay, and no, I mean, who's on finance? You?
Mr. Pollock, Mr. Stern,
Yeah.
Mr. Badano,
Okay,
I just scheduled it.
okay, very good. Thank you very much.
Process now.
And thank you for the good job. And I just want, Paul has,
No.
I was, yeah, I'm gonna say, yeah, but, it was, during my administration, I put,
Oh, you're
Paul,
responsible.
yeah. And you've done a terrific job. And no, not that you didn't come in during my. But you've done it.
Mayor, by the way, I didn't say it before, but I also want to commend our department heads,
Yeah,
Debbie was here and all the department heads, because they work very closely with the finance committee.
right.
To find places where we could stay, where we could, be creative.
Yeah.
And do what's best for the town, so it's a team effort.
Well, how many people are we down in the DPW?
Actually, we are now at full complement. We
are?
just hired someone last month.
Oh, okay,
And, we are.
now we have full complement.
it's a very high turnover department, so
Yeah.
tomorrow we could be down 1 or 2.
Yeah,
So we're,
yeah,
we tell David that he can hire basically at will, because we're churning through people. It's just unfortunate part of the profession these days.
And sorry to add, I do think that as time goes on and we keep on adding different things to the mix in town,
Yeah.
there could be an opportunity to increase DPW. We've been talking about it within the committee to see if we can get some more people to make sure we're keeping everything in a state of good repair and also sort of moving the borough forward in
Yeah.
that. They're the unseen heroes, I like to call them.
right. And, hold on a second, I had something somebody asked me to bring up. You know what, this will go under a different thing, we're just doing the
We will have
budget.
another, public comment.
Yeah, yeah,
Okay.
okay, yeah.
Thank you, Mayor.
Thank you.
Thank you.
So Nathan, why, sir?
Okay, how are you?
Name and pass.
Bob Nathan, Woodcliff Lake.
Thank
Nice presentation. I sat through many of these, so this is good on this side and through the school. I really just have a quick question. You said you had roughly about $900,000 in tax appeals, or reserved for tax appeals. Has the town looked, do we know of any other buildings that we think are coming in going forward? Have most of the buildings been in? I'm assuming most of the office buildings have already been in over the last few years. I do find it interesting, being in the real estate business, prices are as high as they've ever been, except for the office market.
Yeah.
Retail market, all the other type of uses, values are super high. So I'm surprised they even try to get appeals, or I don't pay attention enough to see where we settle them.
I mean, the issue we were having is we were having multiple years of appeals. So, the same building would have 4 to 5 years of appeals. I guess the one building to sort of keep an eye on is, so we do our assessments as of October 1st.
Right.
Party City went vacant
Right,
after
right,
October 1st.
right.
So in the next year, I would expect their to either be a reduction in the assessment or a tax appeal. And the one thing about the appeals is even though we only collect 25 cents on every dollar, the borough actually pays for the entire appeal. So that's one thing we've struggled with is, whereas, we collect the taxes for the school, we have to pay their share of those tax appeals. So.
But that's one building we have to take a look at.
Right, right.
And just that, and I think Councilman Stern made it before, what we're trying to do is trying to stay ahead of it, if you will, so that's why we're having at least monthly or bi-monthly meetings with our tax assessor and the appraiser to say, hey, is this coming down, is this a potential,
Right, that's it.
So that's one of the things that we are trying to be more proactive about.
I guess bottom line is, do we think $900,000 is going to be enough going forward? We don't know.
We don't
You
know.
know,
No, because you're in real estate business. Fortunately or unfortunately, these tax appeals take time, like Councilman said.
Right.
Some of them are 5, 6 years old, anything filed today, unless it's a.
Do we have anything outstanding? Do we have any big ones outstanding now, or have we said?
100, we expect that's being filed, and then,
Right.
like I said,
But that's not gonna-
123, we just settled recently.
I think the biggest.
But 100 is going to be filed, but that's only going to be 1
Well, so
year.
they filed for
It's gonna
20,
take time for it to-
so they filed for 2025, although I don't think they have, as much grounds as they are going to have in 2026 because they were not vacant on October 1st.
I don't know what the assessment was in 25, but I know in 24 or 23, when they bought the building, they paid $46 million. So their succession, maybe in 26, when Party City went out, I understand that we're not going to have much of an argument, but prior to that, I think we should have good arguments not
We
to.
still have the Hilton's
Right.
still inactive.
Right,
Tax appeal.
right. Okay, that was my question.
Thanks, sir.
Right, come on up. One minute.
I can answer it actually from here. When we pay the sewage fee in here, that is for the use of just the municipal sewage and water fees. Am I correct with that?
Sewer fees, yeah, that's usually to the utility authority, the BCUA, yeah, which
Yeah.
obviously folks are,
Yes.
yeah.
Just wondering how it was. Thank you.
Money from Hillsdale on sewage, right?
We have, yes, we have some, there's, actually, we connect to Hillsdale. Upper Saddle River and Saddle River have a couple of, smaller properties, about 20 or 30 that connect to our sewers, and they in turn pay us for doing that.
Okay, motion to close to the public?
Motion.
For a second?
Second.
All in favor?
Yes.
Any opposed? None, motion passes. Resolution number 25-149. Resolution to adopt the 2025 budget. Is there? Second?
Second.
Okay, roll call?
Silverano.
Yes.
Ms. Brodsky,
Yes.
Smargolis,
Yes.
Marsh.
Yes.
Pollock,
Yes.
Stern.
Yes.
Okay. Motion to open in the public on any matter. Ms. Higgins, oh, no, sorry, I'm sorry.
Thank you, Paul.
Okay, thank you, Paul.
Yeah,
Yeah.
Thank you very,
That's fine.
thank you very much. Sir.
Appreciate it.
Thank you.
Well, thank you.
I'll go while you.
Okay. Motion to open to the public, I'm sorry.
Second.
Okay, all in favor?
Yes.
None opposed? All right, anyone who'd like to speak on anything, please step up, state your name and the town you're from.
A couple of people came up to me, after we had the
And
opening.
that's Higgins from Wycliffe Lake.
I'm sorry, Josephine Higgins, Wycliffe Lake, I'm sorry. And what they said is, they really think we should have, besides the police crossing people over to, the park, that we, also have a crosswalk that is, it's actually painted out. I know that's a county road, I don't know how much we can do, but if that's possible, it wasn't one or two, they said that, several people. Okay,
Actually, we have been working, as a matter of fact, today I received back some comments from the county. We're looking to put a crosswalk on Woodcliff, towards like the Bliss area, like at the. What would be,
That, yeah.
the area by the park, and the other complaint or comment we got back is the curb is very high.
Yeah.
Before crossing, so it's very difficult. And there's a reason why that curb is so high, if you recall, and I think you were still on the council last year, we had major flooding that came across.
Yeah.
So that was done specifically to protect.
Yeah.
That area, so. Short answer, it's being looked at, it's being worked on, we do have to work with the county, get their approvals.
Okay.
It's not gonna be tomorrow, but it is being addressed.
Okay,
Right, and Councilman Stern, Councilman Pollack and myself are on the committee, I don't know the official name of it, for that area. And we also have asked the county for a reduction in speed both on Woodcliff and Wearmouth.
Okay.
So we are waiting to hear back on that. And we've done a traffic light study. We've done a whole different
Yeah, I know.
series of studies. We're
know.
just trying to do the things quickest that can get done. So the traffic and the other crosswalk are the.
okay, thank you very much.
Thank you.
Bob Nathan, Woodcliff Lake.
Okay.
So I brought this up once before, but I'm going to bring it up again. Paving of Hunter Ridge. Our street is 32 years old and we have never been paved. You have paved numerous streets of developments that don't get nearly as much used. And were developments built after us, including Birchwood you just did or doing. You did Stacy Lane, you did Stonewall Court, you did Winthrop, you did Carrington. You're doing Birchwood again. I'm sorry, you're doing Brookview, I think you're doing it again. Which is probably as bad as Hunter Ridge when I drove down it today just to see what was going on. I don't know if it's worse. I don't know if it's worse, but our street needs to be paved and our curbs, at least my curb, and now some of my neighbors, whatever I know it wasn't the town, but whoever put in the streets clearly had a bad pour in some of the curbs on our streets because they are crumbled. And mine specifically has disintegrated to nothing. And it's growing. It's like catchy. And of all those streets, Hunter Ridge is an actively used street by the neighborhood. Nikki, okay? Where all the other streets are not, or really just neighborhood streets. They're cul-de-sacs. They're not even used by other people. But just, you got to look at it because it needs to be done.
I mean, I will just comment that the selection of streets is actually not something done by the council. It's really done by the DPW. And they base it on not only on age and the engineer. It's based not only on age, but on use. You know, Brookview is a major thoroughfare through town. Certainly it's been ripped up a number of times. I believe Hunter Ridge is high on the list, although, you know.
But it's not,
Oh, let me finish, but.
Those were not, the other streets you did were not major thoroughfares.
But there are streets that are older than Hunter Ridge.
They were not.
No, there are.
Oh, there are. Oh, there are.
I can tell you, I believe Claremont hasn't been paved since 1994.
We're prior. Our streets were put in
If you're-
89.
If you're prior,
The
then,
top code in
I think-
93, I think.
you know, if you're prior, I think you're probably only 1 year prior,
Right.
because I remember looking at the list. It's a question of something we're going to evaluate next year. You know, we have really focused this year on paving, you know, on the capital budget, which is being introduced. I think we spent more on paving than we ever spent. You know, to do
Listen.
Brookview and to do West Hill are a lot of money.
Right.
And I think we spent, you know, somewhere between $800,000 to $900,000, whereas normally we might spend 300. So it is a priority of this council to really focus on infrastructure. And next year we'll go to our engineer, we'll go to our DPW, and we'll ask them to make, you know, decisions. But nobody in this room is making that decision because those type of things should not be political decisions. They really should be by professionals. So, you know, I appreciate you coming here, but like nobody's good. You know, I'm not going to lean on DPW and tell them Bob Nathan came in and you have to do this. I'm going to wait for them to come in. And if you have a disagreement with them, you know, we can sort of discuss it in open session.
Right.
But
Yeah.
The key. Let's just ask them to look at it. That they do it.
Yeah.
Listen, I understand paving is not a sexy thing to spend money on. Trust me.
And it's-
And it's expensive. I get it. And no one comes to you and says, oh, this is beautiful. This is a great job. You know,
Right.
I'll get a call almost every week on
Yeah,
some obscure street.
I've gone with you to look at streets.
That I go out there and I'm like, it's fine, but.
you know, we had,
No.
Because-
No, I get it.
And I'm not trying, but.
Right.
I will make sure that they will definitely, look
But-
at it, I can't promise you
Yeah.
that.
But Bob, I think it's also important to know, which I didn't realize until I got here. You think, my street should be done. Hunter Ridge is a huge street, right? So when you're looking at different streets and different sizes, it's sort of like a Tetris game, like what you have the money for to fit in, which works into the formula, right? You don't want to leave money on the table, so you figure out which little streets can be done quickly and for cost effective, and then you have two big streets. So what Josh was saying is Brookview and West Hill are huge streets, right? So we're trying to figure out the best. Hey, listen, I think Heather Hill should be paved, but like, everyone has their own views on it. But I think it's a game. But I do think that to the DPW committee, which is Chris, Josh, and myself, we have a new DPW super. So he's going to take everything with a fresh eye and look at things again. And really, as times change, Overlook keeps on having problems. It needs
does.
to be patched every year, like multiple times a year.
Yeah.
I'm just saying, so like, there are things that unfortunately emergencies take things away, but they are going to look at it again. As Josh said, we did add money to the paving. We do believe in paving. We think we have to, clean out our sewers more regularly. Like, we have to go back to sort of making sure everything is focused, because as I feel like a broken record, flooding has really changed in this town, and things are really happening that have never happened before. I mean, the state took down a house in our town and paid for it because floodwaters changed and the movement changed. So we are taking a bigger look at it. It just, you gotta give us some time, because we're
Right.
gonna.
You do West Hill. Are you doing all of West Hill, or you're really doing it up just to?
We're
Anderson?
doing West Hill from,
Lions to Emery,
from Emory all the way down to the.
So you're not doing the new part of West Hill?
correct,
Okay.
And just so you
They were
know,
also developed after us.
correct. That's the point, like, I don't know if you know that on Weremiss, the other Weremiss, I always forget which is lane and which is road. The big one that splits to Hillsdale, the other Weremiss, Hillsdale paved it,
Yeah,
and
but
we didn't
we
pave
didn't,
it,
right.
and then
It's
we
half and
paved it, we're trying to do better about working coordination, so it makes more sense, and Brookview has been on the list for a long time. And Westville also. West Hill is a dangerous road.
Right.
The way it curves and whatever, and it needs to be in good repair or someone's gonna go.
and just so you know, we got grant money for West Hill. I think we got 130,000. I mean, that does factor into what ultimately gets decided, which roads we can get grant money for.
Right.
But some of this issue is, maybe 5 or 10 years ago, there wasn't that emphasis on paving.
Correct.
So we are playing a little bit of catch up, and that's why we are spending more money this year than we've ever spent. So we will get there,
Right.
and I welcome you to come to every
Just
meeting you want.
Make sure they look at it. That's all I can ask.
Bob, the residents of.
All I can ask, make sure they're there and looking.
If the residents wanna put some money together, we'll.
Right, okay.
Okay.
Second question, redevelopment of the Hilton and the redevelopment of the BMW building. Okay. Whose decision was it to go after a process, the area of redevelopment, an area
In need of redevelopment.
in need of redevelopment, and to do a pilot? Because one of the issues that I've had, and I've had for a long time, is our town, and specifically council and the school systems, okay, don't look at it as one unit. Everybody, and I'm sorry, but specifically council looks at it for themselves, okay? And
I actually
the
disagree.
gentleman,
I actually
wait,
disagree. No, I disagree. If you're going to attack the council in this body, I think you have to, I know you're a member of the school board,
but I've been here for
we-
20 years doing this,
I think-
25 years
I think
doing this.
Everybody up on this stage looks at it as one town. I can't talk to the other organization, but everyone on this stage looks at it as one town. So I do take exception to,
Okay,
you know,
but
comments.
even the auditor made a comment, okay, when he said that no one looks at it, they're looking how the money is spent, okay? And they're looking how it's broken down on the town, okay? And well, this is only 11% goes to the county, and this is to the town, and this is the high school, and this is the elementary school. I don't really believe people in town look that way. People in town look saying, I pay $25,000 a year in taxes, okay? If you ask people, and I'm not saying he's wrong, the numbers are accurate, okay? But if you ask people, I bet most people in town have no idea what the breakdown is or anywhere close to it, okay? So they're just looking at the number. They're not looking at where it is, okay? And yes, does it hurt council? Yeah, because everybody blames council, fortunately, for the most part. And you all know that, it's where the hurt comes from. But in doing a pilot program, that's where my question was, okay? We are getting less money overall, okay? The town will be collecting less dollars overall. That's what a pilot is. You're giving an incentive to the developer to come in and to develop the site, Okay? I'm not sure why Woodcliff Lake needs to give anybody an incentive to develop in this town. Okay, now, what the pilot program does do is that it gives more revenue to the town. Okay, I get it. At the expense of the school system, not at the expense of the county, but at the expense of the school systems. So there's less revenue, okay, there's less revenue to the town.
Well,
We can argue.
with the, just to be clear, the town collects all the taxes. The school submits their budget to us and they say, this is our budget, this is what we want, this is where it goes. So whether or not the money being collected is allocated towards the school or not, we're responsible for covering the school's budget. So even if that money is going to the town
Right.
town will still pay for the school's budget. So the school's not losing any money, the town's just allocating our money differently and putting it towards the school.
But I do want to add to, there's been no decision on a pilot, right? There's been no negotiation with numbers about the pilot, so, no one here has made a determination whether or not these projects are getting pilots. You do the area needs, so you can have those discussions and see where it leads.
Right.
But there's been no number crunching that I've seen. I will also say one thing, I think you're missing is, we are in a regional school district. So if you look at how that regional school district formula plays out, pilots are, I'm sorry?
It's terrible.
Correct. We pay double per pupil than Hillsdale pays. So pilots are actually extremely beneficial to sort of remedying that wrong with that school formula. We can discuss it, outside if you want to go into more detail. But, what I'm saying is it's not necessarily we're collecting less taxes because that's all subject to negotiation. And so when
The law provides that pilot has to be at least required. So, I'm sorry, Councilman, for instance, 188 is the only pilot that we've done.
Right.
188, we're collecting, the first year, the same amount that we were collecting before. Now you're gonna say, the kids, there's 4 2-bedroom apartments. We also, through negotiations with the mayor and the council folks did with that entity, there's a provision in there that if more than 4 kids come out of that facility or that project, they have to pay, the developer has to pay the full rate of that suite. So,
Okay.
Again, just to stress Councilman's point is, it's a negotiation, nothing has been decided yet, and this is, it's a tool.
Right.
To allow.
The question is
The other thing is, I'm glad you're here, how can I get the data of the student population, because I know every school does it, and I would guess, as many schools, it's actually declining than going up.
Right. Well,
So-
I've been off the board for 5 years now. Believe it or not, it's been a while. I still talk to them, but I've been off the board again for 5 years. So I do not get all that information anymore.
The other thing, Tom, that the council knows this is that the fact that you're declaring it an area needed redevelopment doesn't mean you have to give a pilot. It just means that they're eligible for a pilot.
Right.
And when developers come in, just as they did with 188, they have to justify, it has to make financial sense to the governing body to enter into a pilot. And at the same time, there has to be a benefit to the community that would this site get developed the way we want to see it developed, absent a pilot. So all those considerations go into, and the benefit of designating as an area in need of redevelopment gives the governing body the ability to do all that. Otherwise, the person would just go to the zoning board and request an approval. So you have large parcels of property, to your point earlier about office space, and this community had large ratables attributable to the office space, and they're not there anymore. Their assessments are appealed. There's not a need for them at this point in time. That could change, but presently there's not. So these large parcels have to be redeveloped. And I think the governing body made a decision that we want to have as much controls as possible over the redevelopments of these sites. And again, declaring it an area in need of redevelopment gives the governing body that control that it otherwise would not have.
Okay, so going forward on those 2 sites, have you looked at 188 now? And I don't really know how you assess an apartment as far as value. I'm not that part of the business. So we're going to say, each apartment has, and I'm just throwing out a number, has an assessed value of of 400,000
You
or
talking about the
five.
town? No, they.
No, no.
188 is already assigned pilot, so.
No, but no, I understand. I'm not saying you don't.
Best value
but-
is three methods. There's.
I understand, but
Oh.
okay, but just as a quick rundown in your head, you're saying, okay, so every apartment's gonna have a value of $500,000 as an assessed value. The townhomes, which they're asking $1.5 million, are gonna have $1.2 million of assessed value. So if you add up all the apartments, you add up all the townhomes, you get all the assessed value, and you now put it in by 2.17, which looks like possibly might be our rate for next year. Okay, we're gonna get a number of taxes. And then you're gonna compare that to whatever the pilot you agreed to.
And
Although-
if it would have been built that way, because again, that's where the developers can
Right,
say,
right.
well, I don't know if I'm going to build, again, so just so, and I'm sure you know this because you're in the business, so when they propose a pilot, and I'm just going back to 188 because it's the only experience we've
Right,
had. thus
understand.
far. They provide financials. We hire, and probably our auditor, someone who's an expert on this and can then analyze it and say, well, this may be good. For instance, 188 is coming up, they wanted a 30-year pilot. At the end, it was an 18-year pilot. And because we felt that would have been too long, and so that provided us enough revenue, and like I said, we put in that clause to, to cover ourselves with the school-age children. So we felt that it was fair, and otherwise, we would probably still have either an empty office building
Right.
and paying nothing, or a storage facility, because that's the only thing people are building. You're in the.
All over the place.
Yeah. So at the end of the day, it's.
Well, I didn't know about I've never done a pilot. Most of the time for pilots are to my knowledge, are always in areas that need to be redeveloped. Go to Passaic, go to Patterson, you'll get a lot of pilot programs in those type of towns. Go to Hackensack, you'll get a lot of pilot programs. But I do love the fact that you limit for the children. I hope you do that again on BMW and on the Hilton.
And it's still in its infancy, nothing has been
Right.
decided, nothing, and that's,
Right.
I got news for you, Bob, I got calls from other towns. Like, they're like, we heard you did, how did you do that? I go, talk to my attorneys, that's what we came up with, and actually it came from the entity, I can't recall the name, and I apologize, who did our pilot analysis. They're like, listen, this is what we propose in other towns, we think this is what we should do. Brought it back to the mayor's time, absolutely.
Yeah.
It's like, that's a no-brainer.
Right.
We.
But again, I would just do a quick analysis, and can't do it in a minute, is that, again, what would the taxes have been? And what you agreed to, and I don't even know the numbers, so I can't even tell you good or bad, it could be, and is that worth it going forward and what you want to do?
That's where there's a number there, there's a line where it makes sense for them, for the developer and for us.
Right.
Because, yes, if you look at a number of an apartment and all that, in the end, it's probably more, of course, but
Right,
they're gonna say, it's not worth it for us to carry that because, we're not gonna build it, and like I said, then we have an empty building, so
Right.
it's that balance, and that's, that's why they get to sit up and make
Right.
those great decisions.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you. Bob.
Thank you.
Come on up, or
It's so cold in here.
I haven't changed my identity. I am still Bert Sanders with Liz Lane.
name and town.
But just going over that briefly with the four children.
No, instead of answer changing, you have to say it for.
Okay. Carmine Gaminute. No, it does make sense with the 4 cents, but with the four children in there, thank you. I looked at our school system and I made an analysis of my own. If somebody came in and had 4 children in this town, and starting from being in here, they have 4 children, put them through our, grade school, bring them over through the high school, those 4 children will cost us $1 million. So when you put that limitation in there and keep out an extra 4, you've saved the town $1 million in the long run. So it's good to take a look at that, and I thank you very much for that. I know we're making some allocations of things. Can I ask you, please, and I think the other person there with me, Josephine, will agree, please put something into the facade of Borough Hall. Okay, by next,
We are working diligently on it.
I went over to the police department, the doors are just falling off the hinges. When I come in the front door here, it looks like,
I hope to have that done by the fall, but yes.
okay, well, thank you.
We do have some.
A capital budget for Borough Hall.
That we had from prior that we are looking, we've been actually waiting for the architect to give us some feedback.
Okay,
So yes, it's been on our radar for a while.
thank you.
Trying to make it happen.
We've been trying to chip away at it. You'll notice the new signs in front of the building, but the doors, the roof, those things are.
Right, and I'm aware with Julie that we're going to be putting up some signs around town to welcome people to the borough. This is all things, remember,
Would you
within,
want to sponsor one of those signs,
We're
Bert?
doing that in sponsors.
how much are you putting in?
I'm sorry?
I'll put in 10% of whatever you do.
Say the words.
What's that like?
I'll tell you, the gardening around there would be different. My wife and myself are good master gardeners, so don't put us down on that part. No, within a year, I mean, our valuation of the average home is going up. So it says within a 1 year, maybe 2 years, we're gonna be averaging $1 million home here. We want to have $1 million image. Anything wrong with that? Well, no.
The question for us that we weigh all the time is, the council president Stern's point is, where do we put those dollars? We need roadways, we need buildings.
I
We
understand.
need pool, and it's.
Facilities.
The dollars
As-
really stretch.
As Ms. Brodsky says, let's make the people welcome to come into town.
Actually, she usually says shade tree, but.
Thank you.
That also is a determination of things.
Stay in town. We want there to be upgraded everything else so they stay here. We don't want to just drive through.
I know, but if you're gonna charge us $1 million for the average home around here, you better stay in town. There's no other place to go. Just a quick question, the park. You all, I guess, went to the opening of the park. I think it was a great success. I think it went well. The food trucks were welcome, especially the Cousins Lobster. That is marvelous. Springfest, excuse me. Oh, they're up at Sloan Kettering right now in Montvale. Today they were. I follow them around. They're good enough.
Very nice.
And I got one for my doctor too, so it was a big bill. But the park, just general, two things, two sets of questions, one of which is, I know things change over time. Originally, there was going to be a fountain, and originally there was going to be, I'll call it an amphitheater.
Right.
I'll call it an amphitheater because we were going to have entertainment up there. This was going to hold 1,500 people.
Right. Well, I don't know.
Well, a number of people, let's call it at least 500 or something. Were those just changes that made that didn't make sense?
Well, the council looked at the entire project and
Okay,
it decided to scale it down a bit. It's not off the table. You never know what could happen in the future. It could always be added. But at the same time, I think there was a good balance in terms of providing to the public the park and not going too crazy on it.
okay. Well, perhaps instead of the fountain, we can have a water fountain there.
Yeah.
You do?
You could refill your water bottle.
There's
Just
some-
Need something for the dogs.
There's so many people there, I couldn't see the water fountains. I'm sorry.
By the way, we're getting a lot of, from the visit to the park, a lot of recommendations, a lot of advice from residents, which is good. A lot of feedback from residents. That's what's needed. So we're looking at some fencing along Waramus Road and Woodcliff Ave. Just in case a ball goes in the road, a kid doesn't follow and things like that. So
I see your point.
it's work in progress still. But these are things that we're constantly looking at.
It's gonna take at least 10 to 15 years until you get a decent tree there that's really gonna give you some shade. I'm sorry, that's,
Work in progress.
trees only work so fast, I'm sorry.
Right, right.
But for the future, okay, there's gonna be upkeep costs of that because we've got the trash, we've got station, the bathrooms, et cetera.
Mhm.
That will be coming out of DPW, or do you see that coming out of a third party who will be taking care of our park?
For this year, what we did is we hired an outside landscape company. They're gonna be doing the cutting the grass and the
Oh,
trimming and all that.
right.
We're gonna see how that works out because DPW is already stretched in.
I
The
know.
Bathroom, early in the year, we upgraded our cleaning service here in town, so we have someone basically here 5 to 7 days a week that not only does Borough
Oh.
Hall, Police Department, Fire.
Right.
They also do the pool, the 2 bathrooms at the field and that one also. So, again, as it progresses, as the use, we'll have to see, but for this year, it's covered with basically outside contract, and obviously
Gotcha.
DPW is there when we have events on overtime basis, but.
Right.
And-
I saw them
and
getting ready for
they do
things.
Different things throughout the summer and beyond.
Yep, I saw a couple of people over
That
there
was
getting
something
ready.
that Steve was taking into consideration and, tried to plan for.
But
Okay.
I think just
Um,
to add to that, Tom, I think that's also why some of the changes got made to the original plan was because DPW took an active part in it and said which were the easiest things to maintain and what was more manageable for them and what was more native to this area that would grow healthier, stronger. So DPW really took an active part at the table to help those tweaks.
And they help us with the shade tree committee too, so.
Yeah.
I agree with that. Police, I know it was an opening and et cetera.
Are you trying to apply?
How many do, we had at least 6 of them there?
Oh, 5.
5.
5? Okay.
And a member of the sheriff's.
Oh,
Yes.
well, maybe they moved quickly and it seemed like there was 6, but
It was 5 also.
okay. When we get involved with another festival, a fall festival, or a special opening or something, or possibly a concert that will be there, we're gonna have to think about the presence of the police there in sufficient quantities again, right?
Because the parking situation.
Yeah,
And it's something that we are aware of and we are, try to budget for it, but that's obviously gonna take into consideration how many events, how we do the events, when we could do them, because we have to make sure everybody's safe. I mean, we needed them because that's a very difficult intersection, so we can't not just, have one person and,
please,
Yeah.
you're right at my heart. 6.5 years ago, I sent a recommendation to the council about putting in some extra parking in there, et cetera. I sent pictures of that corner as well.
Right.
I'm well aware of where things are. I just want to make sure that the county puts something in before we have an accident.
we, again,
And-
like you heard us before, we're working with the county on how we can address it. The county has their own.
I know, but they said 5, 7 years. There's a lot that can happen in 7 years and we can all hope that that doesn't happen. Yeah. Okay. I thank you.
Thank you.
Bert. Anyone else on any topic whatsoever could come up and state their name and the town you're from.
Any public comment? Questions?
Huh? Okay, motion,
No, wait.
you wanna come up?
Hold on.
Yeah.
Come on up.
Come on up.
Come on up.
I guess I came in, so I thought the meeting started at 7.
Okay.
Did you discuss the?
State your name.
Okay.
State your
It's
name.
Rudolph Millian, and I'm a resident of Woodcliff Lake. I've been a resident for almost 30 years, and I been talking to a group here, but have you already discussed the subject of the redevelopment of the 2 properties? Was that part of the agenda?
No.
No. So, then I'll leave my comments until that becomes part of the agenda.
No.
It's not even on the agenda.
Right,
That's not
okay,
But if you
thank
have any
you.
questions or comments.
Yeah,
for
you
the
can make
record,
a
feel
statement
free.
if you want.
Because there won't be another public portion.
Yeah, Well, my concern has really been with the area around the mall, nearby the Tice area. And only because that area was very successful at one time. It had a great hotel, it had a lot of offices. Then we added retail and everything was going well. Meanwhile, the country has changed since 9/11. So the office sector has gone way down. Convention hotels have also been affected. Meanwhile, retail continues to be very hot. I just came from a national convention of retails that was held in Las Vegas over this past weekend. And retail continues to thrive. There's a big demand for retail, restaurants, et cetera. And so I just see the area going downhill. And I just think it's going to affect our tax base. It's going to just get worse and worse. Valuations are going to go down. Occupancy is going to go down. So I really think this council needs to focus on the entire area to be redeveloped. I'm also concerned on the hotel side that they have already, sold to a multifamily developer, and it's just going to generate a lot more multifamily. Multifamily makes a lot of money in commercial real estate, and so there's a lot of need. But if you do it right, and if you add just the right percentage of the homes that are for affordable housing, and you do certain things with it, and you add boutique hotels or hotels that are catering to the dweller that lives on a longer stay, that also we can redevelop the retail, bring the parties together and try to expand it into the Party City building so that that whole area can thrive again, diminish the number of office buildings, and do the right thing for Woodcliff Lake, make that the town hall, make that our downtown, maybe move these offices there as well. And that will generate a lot of money for the participants as well as for the residents here. So those are my thoughts.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Thanks, sir.
Motion to close to the public.
Second.
All in favor?
Yes.
Any opposed? None. Motion passes. Okay, proclamations, mental health awareness proclamations in your packet. Now moving along to council members' reports.
Mayor's report, if you want to do one, you weren't at this meeting.
No, I'm good.
Good. See, I knew that.
Yeah.
I knew that.
I know you did. Okay, council members' reports. Councilman Powell.
All right, couple things from my side. First and foremost, we heard approved the budget earlier today. So as I said in the last meeting or two, I just want to thank Council President Sturt, Administrator Padilla, our professionals, as well as Councilman Bonanno on working through the budget. It was a lot of late nights going line by line by line. I think there's a point by line 587 that I was working with my mind a little bit, but we did it. I think a positive outcome for the residents of Woodcliff Lake. I think there were probably some items both in the operating budget, capital budget, we all would have hoped we could get in, but at the end of the day, it is our responsibility to do what is in the best interest of our residents, and what we presented to the council for a vote today, I think reflects that well. So I want to thank you for working through that over the last 6 months and having those weekly meetings and getting us through it. Second, from a police department perspective, you'll notice several resolutions on that continue to move our camera system forward. We had one of the things that we've done over the last couple of years is expand our ALPR license plate reader program, which has been instrumental in countless opportunities to solve crimes here in Woodcliff Lake. Both as a reactive, what happened, where's the suspects, how do we solve the crime, to proactive things that were about to happen. So the resolutions help expand some federal grant money that we got to expand that very successful program and continue to keep the entirety of Woodcliff Lake safe. So we're looking forward to that. We are continuing to sit down with members of our PBA to negotiate their contract, which is up at the end of this year for the next cycle of that labor agreement. I want to congratulate the members of the council of our Parks and Recreation Committee on a successful Spring Fest this past week. And speaking on behalf of my family, it was an enjoyable time. As we look at all of the sort of things that are happening in our Parks and Rec department, which seems like we've got a lot of new programs coming out and just so much going on, particularly now as we go into the summer months, there's a lot for us to keep track of as a council. And one of the things I wanted to propose to my fellow council members is an improved means of how we can all stay up to date with things that are going on. Insofar as, and we've seen this being successful with other committees, Administrator Via does send a weekly update to us on the high level things that are happening around the municipality. We, Council President Stern and myself get a monthly report on the matters of the police department, which is done so by ordinance. I just learned, I think we're the only ones to receive it going forward. If all members of the council could receive that, perhaps, forward that up. But the one committee that historically has not necessarily had sort of an update from the director was Parks and Rec. I wanted to propose resolution this evening and make a motion to get a bi-weekly. I think that's a sort of a fair timeline report from the director of Parks and Rec to members of the mayor, to the council and mayor on bi-monthly, I'm sorry, every other day.
No, but just so you know, and because I don't let you know if you need a resolution, I have instructed Ryan to provide high-level minutes to everybody on the council. So I think it's something that, that's already been addressed. I don't let you know if we need a formal resolution, but we will be providing formal high-level minutes to everybody.
Well, but what does high level entail? Will it entail things that are in formation, or will it only entail things that are final? Like, what will it entail?
I mean, I think we have to see what he puts first, and if there's an issue, we'll address it then. But, you know, this is sort of, you know, and I don't want to pick on Ryan because, you know, no other committee provides high-level minutes, and, you know, communication on this committee has been a multi-year issue. But let's see what he produces in the first minutes, and then if it's not detailed enough, or if it's too detailed, we'll adjust it. I don't think we need to,
Well, I think
you know, sort of dwell on it, but.
issue is like by ordinance, the other committees, so the police chief, the superintendent of the Department of Public Works, they're all bound on providing sort of regular updates to the council. When the Parks and Recreation Department was established back in the day, the ordinance does not state that the director needs to. I just think there's so much happening in that department. Just having that cadence, requiring that it needs to be submitted to us, is not, to your point, picking on any particular member. It's just there's so much happening, and that is also the most visible committee for us in the community, that it's just good to know what's coming up, what's going on, the details of things. And I don't know that we need minutes of a meeting, to be honest. I think it's sort of high level, what are the things happening, what's upcoming, just to keep us all.
I think the liaisons report every meeting on what's happening in Parks and Rec, if I'm not mistaken. And those are the things that are happening. I mean, things may come up in between, then I guess you get an email, so, but it's really the responsibility of the liaisons to report on an update on meetings like this.
Mayor, if I may, maybe I could find some common ground here, because I've had a discussion with department heads, and I'm gonna take a part of the blame here, because I've been trying to do monthly meetings before the council meeting from them to get some. So I know I already sent everyone Lyle Garcia's property maintenance, Millennium. Dave Linko just got me his today. I'm going to be sitting down with all of them and getting similar to what Dave says. It's nothing really formal. It's like, this is happening, this is what we did, this is what we did. I think if Ryan, and again, I don't want to be bringing up, he had a personal issue, he had to be away this week. And in all fairness to him, the last couple of weeks, aside from the park opening, which was a massive undertaking, and issues because we weren't sure if it was gonna rain, it wasn't gonna rain, and this and that, the pool, and actually, that's the only thing I have to report on when I come up. There's slight issue with the pool, but we're working on it. I think if you allow me to go back and have the department heads provide you with that, let's see how next month, if that's still not what you want, I think that then, but again, you're the council, if that's what you want to do, whatever you want to do.
No, but I do want to add, there are other committees and there are other council people who don't necessarily report to everybody. So it's not just necessarily a Park and Rec issue. Like we have a Chamber of Commerce committee. I have not had one report. I don't know if they've had meetings or not, but but that's a committee where I haven't had any updates. There are issues where, certain things get done and people find out after the fact and it's not Park and Rec. And so I don't want to make this a Park and Rec thing. As I said, Ryan's been instructed to provide minutes. If there's an issue with the level of detail in his minutes, we'll address it then.
But I think the one thing is that it's the most visible. It's the ones where things are posted on social media. It's the things for us as council members to be able to speak to.
You brought up a good point. The social media is a very good point. I actually had a conversation with him last week because my philosophy has always been, and listen, we all make mistakes, that you as a council should know before anything happens. So I will reiterate that to him when he's back, especially on social media, because what happens, and I know, it goes up on social media,
And then we get phone
and
calls.
you get a phone call, and, before you even have a chance to see it, 12, Sally sent it to Julie and everybody else, and everybody's like, oh my God, and then they're calling you, so I will address that with him, and I've done that with PD also, because they put out some social media, sometimes they put it out and I don't hear about it. So it is, something that I think we can improve and we should, and I think that we will. But aside from that, I mean, I try to keep you guys abreast of everything, and I'll be honest with you, so I forgot sometimes, and and it happens, but I think if we all kind of regroup and just try to keep everybody, on tune, and the only other thing I will ask, since you guys opened the door, if there's an issue, give me a call. My phone's on 24/7, and I will address it right away. I will get back to you right away. I'd rather, and it's, with all due respect, it's the way it's supposed to work. Do not, the liaisons are to that committee, not really, they're not in charge of that department. They're not the department head. They're the department head. I'm the administrator for all the departments. Go to me. That's also makes it easier because sometimes, he may answer, you or you, but Chris is calling me on something else. And if I know, because I'm gonna get a call from I just think that if we keep the lines of communication and the chain of command, I think would be also helpful.
So Councilman Stern, I'm gonna take a little bit of, I'd like you to clarify what's been a multi-year problem with the Park and Rec Committee, because you stated it, so I'd like specifics or how you can.
Sure.
Yeah.
I mean, I think communication last year was terrible from Park and Rec. I don't think it's, I think it's just been an ongoing issue. I think, there have been a lack of informing people as to what was going on. It's not something that was created this year. I think it's been a multi-year problem. It probably predates you as well. So it's,
But I think to that point, like, right, wrong, or indifferent, wherever the truth lies, there is sort of this consistent feeling of communication.
Yeah, but I think the issue really isn't about communication. It's about who's on the committee. And I think there's disagreements about who should be on it. And like, that's really what that's really the elephant in the room.
I do want to step in here. I do
It has
think
nothing to do with
some of it is
communication.
about communication and how we find things out. And it shouldn't be a situation where any members of the council are being informed by Facebook. Of anything, like Tom pointed out, we do get calls about them. We should know, we should have the heads up, just because, and for across the board, everyone should be doing this. Just, it's helpful for all of us. It makes all of us look good if we know what's going on. It's not a good look for any of us if one person, posts something and then everybody doesn't know. And so I think when we talk about communication, like this is a specific issue. We can all work better on liaising, but even very specifically, like we do need to be using our social media in the right way, and we should be using it. And it is a very helpful tool in communicating with members of the public and especially our residents. But before things go out on social media, we should all get a heads up. Even if it's a text, even if it's this and that, however it is, just, hey, this is going up. Hey, this is something we're doing. If you have questions, let me know. If you get calls, this is what it is. And I think that that's a fair thing to ask for all of us.
Are we talking about anything, because not everything that goes up on social media is Park and Rec.
Yes.
No, I
Yes, I think
personally think anything
things
that we're
that
gonna
go
put
on
up on
social
social
media.
media,
Correct.
my opinion is you should know before it goes. However, I will tell you that I think we are all subjected to this instant notification, instant gratification mentality. And I think including our employees that they want to get the word out. And again, I think I'd rather we wait an hour, send it out, and then send it out. So I will be putting something out tomorrow to all my departments. I think it's only fair that you should know before anything, whether it's
Rabies clinic.
I'm sorry.
Rabies
clinic,
That's why I brought it out.
And to clarify my point, any minutes or any reports are all public documents there, so they're subject to Oprah. And I think the committees, when they're preparing the report, should keep that in mind.
Yeah,
And to clarify my point, I was very purposeful and said the director of Parks and Recreation, not the Parks and Rec committee. And the reason I said that is exactly to your point. It is Ryan, as our director, is responsible for a social media channel and put everything on. So everything that is set to go live, it's not necessarily just your, just a byproduct of it. It is what is going on in the municipality, things that are perhaps a couple orders lower than the things that are in your weekly report. So I'm not picking on a committee. I'm just trying to get it solved.
And something you just brought up, Councilman, that maybe I think would be useful for guidance for whether he's doing it, anybody else is doing it for the future. Maybe you, as a council, as the policymakers, to say, we expect these kind of things to go out on social media. We would allow community groups to, promote something through our social media. We'd allow the schools, even though they may not be on the school board anymore, to promote things. That's obviously I'm joking. I'm joking.
No. Were you here when Jay Esposito was here?
No, I came in.
Jay used to come, because I sat on Parks and Rec for a long time. Jay used to come to the meetings. So I'm just as a idea if you want, but I think Jay. Jay was.
I think somebody's calling.
Yeah.
I just playing.
No, but
and listen, I've had that. I was the county field. All the department heads came to the meetings. I don't propose. I don't think we need to do that. I think but no, again, that's up to them. They're the bosses. They're the bosses. That's what they want to do. That's what they will do. But my point is, yes, I think you should know ahead of time, and I think maybe set up a policy that these are the items that we believe should be out on social media. And like, if we get a call from, the Boy Scouts, no, or yes, same thing with the message board. But again, that's something I think is within their purview.
But once you open up to other organizations.
Right, you can't say no.
And
You
that's
can't say
the
no.
only
That's
reason
the,
we have to be very.
I think one of the things that we discussed last year on the communications committee, if there was something that involved members of the community that they were invited to, it's a way of informing them of what's going on, whether it be a high school play or whatnot. If our intent is to really bring the town, the schools together, because it is all our children, all our events. It's one thing that we can do if the resident, because if you're not in the school system, how do you know something's going on? And yes, you could say it's up to the school to do it, but we represent the
For
town.
instance, I got a call yesterday from someone about an event happening at Woodwood Park. I didn't know about it because it's a 5th grade event, elite event. Yeah, it really wasn't a town, it's a elite 5th grade event. So again, that's something for you guys to consider, because maybe limit, because like John says, if we open it up, then what if you have a brand new community organization that may not be, someone we want to promote, but they're saying we're a community organization.
Okay.
but I also think it's also what constitute community then.
Okay, so let's move on. We got the gist of it. I know Tom is filibustering a little bit, so, so we're gonna move on. So we're going to, we're going to speak to Ryan and get a procedure, together, get everybody on the same page. Okay. Councilman Pollock, you're done with the, okay. Okay. We got 5 more council people to go.
I will end on this piece. I do think the dialogue and conversation we just had was important. You know, I know typically, at least the last 2.5 years I've been on council, it's very procedural and there's definitely a time and place for that, but I think, you know, we had talked about, do we do more meetings or things like that? I think that dialogue is healthy and I'm glad it's happening on and stuff, so.
Okay, thank you.
With that.
Councilman Bonanno.
Yes, okay, first thing, pool tennis camp updates, we are a little bit above where we were last year. And looking to bring that up, but it's where we were last year, this year we're almost identical for the 2 events coming up. We have the pool opening on the 24th. With the Memorial Day celebration at the new park. We have the Triborough Memorial Day Parade starting in Montvale. And from 12 to 7, the pool is open to everybody, which is all the Buffalo Lake residents. And Saturday, May 31st, we have the reservoir cleanup by the train station. More details will be posted shortly. Couple things on, I'm sure John will talk about DPW. Let's say to what we were talking about before. I thought the Spring Fest, I heard it was great. Unfortunately, I couldn't be there. I had a sad event to go to, but anyway. What I heard was very good, and everyone was talking about it. People have reached out and said, "Oh, great, good luck." Same thing with the opening of the park. I thought the PPW did a great job. I think everything really worked out great. One thing I met with Marilyn, the seniors today, to talk about upcoming events we could do at the park. At the new park, we had some discussions on some stuff. That I'll talk some more about with Julie and Ryan, and we'll hopefully get some really good stuff. It's good to get feedback from her, seeing what the seniors would be interested in having, not necessarily just focusing on just the young family. So we're working on that. That's pretty much it.
Okay, thank you. Councilwoman Brodsky.
So just to circle back to Spring Fest, one more time, it was our first major event at the park, and we did receive a lot of great feedback. I do want to thank Brian McGee, for the coordination of the entire event, for, booking the bands, the food trucks, the craft vendors, also our DPW, Dave Linko and the staff, along with our police department, for their support and assistance throughout the day. The balloon artist, the face painting was a huge success. Some of the feedback and notes taken for our next major event like that. We could have used some high top tables or some seating of some sort, water bowls for pets, because there were a lot of dogs in the park, as well as some activities for some of the older kids. So all things that we will be looking at. I just want to give a sponsorship update. Out of the 8 benches, we do have 5 that have been sponsored. Of the many trees, right now we have 6 that are sponsored. We have 4 additional on tonight's agenda for resolutions, and 1 more was confirmed this week by a local doctor's office, which treatment pediatrics. They're sponsoring a tree. We also have a scoreboard that's being sponsored. The scoreboard by Lockwood was sponsored years ago by Gall Orthodontics. And when they heard that there were new scoreboards coming in, they wanted to re-sponsor it. So they will be taking on that sponsorship as well. So it's nice to have 2 local businesses being involved in our sponsorship programs, and we encourage all of our local businesses to get involved in one way or another. The shade tree projects, I do want to just give a little update what the shade tree committee is working on. The cherry trees along Waramis by the tennis courts have just been trimmed. This was a much needed thing that needed to happen in order to keep the trees healthy. They also had the clearing of dead trees and weeds along Tree Farm Way, with the goal of planting some more trees so it looks like much nicer, and as you go up Tree Farm Road. They are also looking at a project on Pascack to plant more trees there. And there have been requests for 24 trees by residents for the street tree program, which we planted this fall. And that's all I have.
Anything on the community garden?
It's still in process of being cleaned up. So.
Okay. Councilwoman Margolis.
Thank you. So, just so I also missed Spring Fest. I apologize. I wasn't at a sad event. I was at a bat mitzvah. So at least, you know, but, it was a daytime bat mitzvah. So it took the entire day. So, but I heard it was great. My kids were there with the babysitter and the babysitter's entire family. So it's okay. So, the seniors are having their summer party on June 5th. And next time, if you meet with Marilyn, just let me know so I can attend it.
Oh.
Yeah.
Well, I was thinking about,
Yeah. So the other thing in terms of lead events, I know there's a bunch coming up. I know about them solely because my son is in 5th grade. So he will be there. So just so everyone knows, the movie, which was supposed to be tomorrow, is most likely going to be changed, obviously, because the weather is not great. An upcoming date will be coming in the next couple of weeks. They have not announced it. The other thing they are doing is the lead will be taking part in the parade on Monday. And for the first time in years, there's actually a ton of kids that will be participating, which is great from Wickliffe Lake. They're very excited, except now I don't think they can all fit on the pickup truck. So now that's going to be a bit of a fight. They also, as part of their end of year events, they will be doing the torch run with the police department, which 5th grade does every year. So they will be meeting at the VFW and running to Hillsdale, which is Wickliffe Lake's portion of the torch run. The 5th grade class does it every year. And then at Hillsdale, lucky for them, is a snack stop on the torch run. So they get to have snacks in Hillsdale, but it's only for 5th grade. No parents either, except they get to watch. And then the other thing that the last community events that the 5th grade is doing is a cleanup in mid-June just for the 5th grade after school, but there's an educational program that starts before the cleanup. So it's only the 5th graders, and what they say is an appropriate amount of chaperones. So we are working on that. In terms of Film Ready, we're starting to get locations. People have approached me on locations that they thought would be great, which is great. And I've also asked local businesses if they would like to be part of it. In terms of the Chamber of Commerce, which I have reported on for a couple months in a row, is that we don't have anything yet. The fire officials, Ralph, has finally gotten together an updated list of all the businesses in this town that he has on file with contact numbers. So hopefully in the next couple weeks, Chris and I can sit down with Ralph and them and try and figure out who's the right person to speak to. Some are corporate, some are not. But it would be great as new developments are coming into town and stuff that we have a list or encourage people to come into town like Montvale does. I had the pleasure of meeting one of the Montvale Planning Board members last night at Track. And he was telling me how, some of the stuff that they do to entice businesses and stuff. So to the earlier point, who I forgot, maybe Burton made it, that will hopefully come under the Chamber of Commerce, and we could take an active part in promoting and getting sponsorships and really doing it. We just need to get the right contact info. And so that has been a challenge, but Ralph has been able in his new position to update all the lists, which is great. He has yet to send them over though. I'm harassing him.
Although my understanding is he does not have email, is that correct? He only has phone number?
Some of them have emails, some are phone numbers, but we will be able to get them.
In the past,
Yeah.
they did not include emails on their annual
Correct.
their annual registrations. That was something that I brought up to Ralph. So little by little, hopefully that's going to.
Yes, luckily for us, we can then, once we get these, we can reach out to the owner of Tice and the owner of the Whole Foods Shopping Center, so they can give us other people if those are not the right people. But I'm trying to go with the official, we're trying to go with the official list first and then go from there. And then actually, the new veterinary clinic is opening in town. And so Rachel, she's softly open, yeah. Rachel will be inviting us to an event there, but also she also offered to possibly have a first Chamber of Commerce meeting there, which would be nice. She doesn't have a big space, but she said, at least to give her some more business, which would be great. And then DPW which is strange, but they're finally in their quieter season because it's not leaf or snow, but now they're in pool season. So they're sort of moving all about, but we should thank them for what they did and what they continue to do for us on the regular. So thank you.
Is there any update on the chili cook-off? Is that
It will be in the fall. We have not picked a date. We had said when it got moved last time, it was going to be, during Fire Prevention Week.
I'm always thinking food, that's what.
Prevention Week will be but I did have another question actually to Councilman Brodsky, and the mayor actually posted it. What is Woodcliff Wednesday?
Oh, my bad. I meant to speak to that, or actually I thought this was going to, but that's okay. So in terms of looking at summer events, looking at months of July and August, with knowing that many people go away on the weekends, what day of the week could we possibly, schedule some events in the park, and Woodcliff Wednesday sort of had a nice ring to it. So it was something that we were thinking about. Ryan is in the process now of reaching out to different types of venues, whether it be a band, could be a magician, could be, something for the seniors. We're trying to get a nice little mix. And that's really how the calendar will be built in, as to, first come, first serve, availability and whatnot. And then hopefully, now that we have these big two, between the opening of the park and Springfest behind us, the pool will be opened. Ryan will be able to coordinate a schedule of events sooner than later, and then we can get that all out to everyone. And that was the thought behind Woodcliff Wednesday.
And then one of the businesses town said that you're doing a food and wine festival.
It's something that I had spoken about in previous council reports as we look to fall events, looking at an international food and wine festival in September. And then in October, looking to do a health and wellness series of events for the entire month. We can do, we're looking at different things like, you can have a yoga instructor, yoga in class one morning, breast cancer awareness focus, all different types of things we're looking at doing. I was actually at the Bergen County Stigma-Free Symposium at the beginning of the month, gathered a lot of information and contacts to reach out to for the month of October in terms of all of this. So it could incorporate a lot of different things in terms of health and wellness. So the Food and Wine Festival for September, health and wellness in the month of October.
Yep.
And then July and August for summer events.
And when's Oktoberfest?
September 27th.
When's the run?
This Sunday. Oh, sorry, next Sunday, June 1st is the Ed Foundation run.
Oktoberfest is traditionally
And I just would like to thank Ralph, who just sent me the list, because apparently he's listening, so.
The run for education is June.
First.
Thank you.
Also, I know Councilwoman Brodsky met with Marilyn Clark to go over the park. She had indicated that she would like to have the pavilion named after her.
Great.
So we're looking at the price of putting up the plaque or the, what do they call
Something
it?
similar to the name plaque of Tar on a smaller scale over the pavilion.
So, that-
The narrow part.
right. So hopefully everybody's okay with that. I mean, considering she was very generous with us.
Yes, of course.
Okay, where am I? Councilwoman Marsh.
Thank you. Last night was our planning board meeting. A few things about it. One is that we did pass resolutions for 200 Tice, and we passed for the Hilton and BMW for 300 Chestnut Ridge as well. We did pass the resolutions for the area in need, just so everyone is reminded of the process, the few people listening. The resolutions were passed by the planning board. We are going to take a look at them. Then the council can adopt the resolutions as well. Then if we do, the council begins the process of a redevelopment plan for those areas. And yes, a pilot can be considered within those plans. But again, just to remind everyone, the people who are invested in these projects do have the best interest of the town at heart. And that does not mean the town part of the town and not the children. It doesn't mean just the children or our own personal interests. When we're looking at the way progress is moving and the way developments are happening and the way other towns are developing around us, there are some positives and there are some negatives that we're seeing, and we are deeply invested in making sure that we're doing the right thing for our town. And some of that could be what kind of materials we specify in certain buildings, the look of them, the number of units. Some of those things are very important to us. Some of those, things might require a pilot, but there is no one on this council on any of the committees who would ever want to hurt our school systems. Those are our children, or who would want to hurt the town. It is a very delicate balancing act of making sure that we are really taking everyone's interests at heart, and no one up here, no one on these committees, no one on economic development, no one on the council in general takes that role lightly. It is a process, but it is one that we are really invested in, and making sure that we do the right thing. So that is how the area and needs are going to proceed. Another thing that came up at the planning board last night is just when we're talking about bulk variances, and this is just for anyone who comes before, the question of if we have variances and ordinances in place about, zoning requirements, why do we then, provide variances? Why do people get to come up for that? And I think just to make it clear to everyone, the bulk ordinances really are for the town in general, but not every lot is conforming to those. And so when people come before us, for a variance, it is usually a non-conforming lot, a hardship, some sort of easement, all of these things get taken into consideration. And those are some of the reasons that, certain properties might require a variance. The council at the planning board did have a difficult decision last night over something that seemed like maybe it shouldn't have been such a difficult decision, but the people that come before us are our residents. And, the planning board works really hard to make sure that we are trying to make all of our residents happy while following the zoning ordinances for town. So just if anyone has any questions about how that works or why it works that way, feel free to reach out to us. You can reach out to anyone on the planning board. You can reach out to me. We are happy to answer any questions, and, just to clear up how things happen and why. Because I know sometimes it seems like things come before, maybe they get rubber stamped, but it really is a process. That's it. Oh, the next meeting for the planning board is going to be June 24th, and that will be a combined planning board council board. And it is going to be at Tice, and someone should have let the chairman of the planning board know before last night. So expect a phone call. And
He was told. He forgets like some other people.
that's all I have.
Thank you, and I'd like to say Councilwoman Marsh has been working very hard on the planning board, and also very challenging because we have some major developments coming in the future, so that board is going to be very, very busy. And she's been working very hard with Council President Stern on fair share housing. A lot of this stuff is driven by fair share housing, and at this point, I'd like to turn it over to Council President Stern for his presentation.
I'm going to keep it brief. 9 a.m. on Monday is the Memorial Day ceremony. It's been sparsely attended in the past, hopefully with the moves to the new park and the beautiful monument section of the park, more people will come out for that. And the parade starts at 10:30. I did notice during the Spring Fest, there were, kids, and kids will be kids, but a lot of kids were climbing on some of the monuments. That may be worth putting up a small sign. I just see it. But I did think it was a little disrespectful for kids to be climbing on monuments to people who served, but like a gentle sign, I think would be helpful. Keeping it brief, the June 30th is our deadline for the Affordable Housing Fair Share Plan. We are working diligently on it. Every day there are changes to it, but it will be heard, as Councilwoman Marsh said, on June 24th. We will get the entire council a draft as soon as we can. But I think we've tried to keep everybody in the loop as to what's going to be in it, and we will continue to do so. So that's it.
Thank you, Councilman. Yeah, go ahead.
I have to read something into the minutes that
Okay.
from Mr. Dolan, he had sent, I believe, the council and John Creasy copy. He had asked us, one was in April 25th and one was May 9th, to put something into the minutes. So one thing he asked me to read
Is that something, where we're required to formally read? it,
No,
or can we
you're
pl-
not.
To be,
Or can we place it in the minutes?
No,
place it in
you
the
have to
minutes,
make,
percent.
right, all you have to do is acknowledge the date of the correspondence and the subject matter. You don't have to read the entire letter unless the council wants you to read
I mean, I think we've already been provided copies,
Both
but
received a copy, so I will place both letters, one dated April 25th, 2025, and one dated May 9th, 2025, into the minutes. And it's related to BMW.
Very good.
Thank you.
Administrative report.
Yes, Mayor, really quick, we have a slight concern. The county was at the pool today to do their annual inspection. However, our lab results were not back yet, and the reason was that they came out on Monday to do the analysis of the pool water, but because the pool was being refilled, because as my report noted, we had to take some water out to put the features back in, and there was an issue with that. They could not take the sample. They advised me that they could only come tomorrow. We would not have it back till Saturday, which would prevent us from opening. We were able to find an accommodation. Again, thank you, DPW. DPW drove down to Hillside, New Jersey, picked up the appropriate containers, and then came back, filled it up, went back. We should have the results Friday. I do believe that we will be okay, but still a slight concern. They're telling us that'll be done then. Unfortunately, because of the work being done at the pool, this lab would have been done a week or so ago, but it wasn't all completed. But we should be good, but I wanted to make sure that you have that. And obviously, if there's an issue, we will let you know first, and then we will notify everybody on social media and the like afterwards.
although it is good that is, I think the high is 63 on Saturday.
The only, and I was going to joke, but the only good thing is that the weather in this case may actually be helping us. But again, it's otherwise, the pool work, although it was slightly delayed, seems to be working well. Been working with Mr. Scatino, and then we will obviously hold up our end of the settlement once it's all been deemed complete. Same with the park. We still have some money to pay on that, and we are holding off because we're still having issues with the lighting and just a couple of small punch list items that I will not sign off on and bring to the council until that is all complete. That unless there's anyone that has any questions on any of the resolutions, that concludes my report. So.
Thank you. Okay, moving along to ordinances, ordinance number 25-04, an ordinance to amend chapter 250 entitled Vehicles and Traffic in the Borough Code of the Borough of Wickliffe Lake, State of New Jersey. Motion to open to the public on this ordinance.
Second.
All in favor? Any opposed? None. Anyone from the public like to come up and speak on ordinance number 25-04? Come on up.
No, it's not in my copy of the agenda that was left out there. I started 2505.
No, it is. Go a little bit further, it's in order. So if you go
2505 was being introduced.
2504 is right before right after the proclamation, the engineer's report, and then there's 2504.
I'll save you the trouble, Kurt. What we're doing is we're eliminating any non-residents from buying parking tickets. Parking permits, I'm sorry, to the train station. So only residents will be allowed to buy.
Okay.
In the past, we allowed after a certain date, if there was still any available. And to be honest, we've only had, I think, 3 in the last couple of years to it. So, but council felt strongly that keep it for residents only. All right.
Okay, motion to close to the public,
Motion.
for a second?
Second.
All in favor?
Yeah.
Any opposed? None. The motion passes. Introduction of ordinance number 25-06, floodplain management. Is there a motion for introduction?
Motion.
Is there a second?
Second.
All in favor?
Yes.
Any opposed? None.
This will be on the site since it was introduced today.
Okay.
And this, Mayor, just so for the public, this is all mandated by the state. We have to go back and forth, with the engineer and the state, so that we are in full compliance with, the new state, regulations.
Very good. Introduction of ordinance number 2507. It's a long read there, so it's in your packet, so. Motion to introduce.
Motion.
Is there a second?
Second.
All in favor?
Yes.
Any opposed? None. Motion passes. Okay, any questions on the consent agenda before we move on?
Can I just ask a question? Do we expect that the independent expert for the pool, that we're sort of at the end of this since it went?
Yeah, the pool is done, other
Okay.
than he has to complete a form that we need completed, and there's one minor repair, or what is it, the reflector?
By the pool features, when we went to install the pool features, it's not fitting correctly, so one of the pool features, the other thing will not be on, at least for this weekend. So it needs to be trimmed away, but obviously we were not gonna allow our DPW or anyone else to do it. We want the Premier Pool to come back and do it so that we don't void it, that warranty or condition of the agreement. So, so yes, for your question, as far as the independent expert, it was more than anticipated.
Yes.
But we feel that it was worth it because they were there, quite a bit, and several times I instructed them that I wanted them to be there, visibly there, and to inspect, because we want to make sure that this was, done. in full compliance.
He's signed off on the work being
Yes.
done, and in addition to our own consultant, the manufacturer of the materials that he used was on the site to
Right.
supervise, because they give a warranty to us to the material.
Right.
So the project was heavily supervised, and I don't want to,
Right. And
not
should,
superstitious, but it appears that
Right.
he did a very good job.
so should there be any failures, the independent contractor will come back, right, to?
We're holding money, but we're still holding money back over the warrant for the 6-year warranty period.
Okay,
The
And he's
independent
required-
contractor would have to be re-engaged.
Yeah, yeah, of
Their
course.
job.
Okay.
Like John said, we're holding money back still for a couple of years from the original Premier, and just to add to it, the manufacturer has that warranty for 10 years. So that was a really good thing too.
Great, thank you.
All right, motion to accept the consent agenda.
Motion.
All in favor?
Yes.
Yeah.
Any opposed? Do we need to do close? You guys want to do close? Want to go close session?
There's
Uh-huh.
one matter to update the council.
Okay, so motion, resolution number 25-170, resolution providing for a meeting not to open to the public in accordance with provisions of the New Jersey Open Public Meetings Act, NJSA 10:4-12. Topic litigation update. We may come back after close to
We'll have to come back to the close, but we do not expect any action. This is more of a.
How long do you think we'll be in closed to announce that?
About 15 minutes.
So the council will be in closed session for approximately 15 minutes. At which time the meeting will reopen. The public will be invited to attend.
At that time, we'll be closed, and all, expect to take action.
So is there a second, Councilman Paul?
Second.
Oh, thank you.
all in favor? Any opposed? Thank you, guys.
Thank you.
Thanks.
Be careful driving home on the road.
Keep posting.
Don't-
Take it back.
You know, I'm saying about, on the intersection of Loomis and Woodville, there's, not gonna get anybody out of